if you're thinking about moving to Nashville, Tennessee, it's really important to understand all the different areas that the Nashville area has to offer, because you have, of course, the city of Nashville, the downtown area, which is known for being one of the coolest downtowns of any city in the country. But then you have a lot of areas in the suburbs and surrounding small towns that also have a lot to offer. So you have small towns like Franklin, which is just about 30 minutes to the south of downtown Nashville. It is one of the most iconic small towns in the state of Tennessee. Then you have, the different modern suburbs like Brentwood and Hendersonville, where you're going to find all the conveniences of a modern suburb as far as tons of shopping, highly rated schools, newer modern neighborhoods and homes. You're going to have some of the highest end luxury communities that you'll find in the entire state right outside of Nashville as well. Places like Belle Meade, where you're going to have homes on large estate lots, 1, 2, 3 acre lots with these large estate homes. A lot of these homes are, for example, going to be in the $5 to $15 million range. So this is an absolutely beautiful area with, the tree-lined streets, the older historic homes on these large estate lots. That's a really unique area outside of Nashville. And then you're going to have the more rural areas where you have open farmland, homes on 5, 10, 20 acre pieces of property. Not to mention the lakes that are nearby with the lakeside communities. So it's really important to understand, because you could end up, on one side of Nashville and realize you like the other side better, and it might be an hour drive to get over there. So it's important right off the bat to understand and get in an area where you're going to have everything you want within 10 to 15 minutes instead of having to drive all the way across the metro. So diving right in here, Nashville is right in the middle of Tennessee. It is the capital of Tennessee. And it is, like I said, a fairly large metro for the state of Tennessee. It's the largest in Tennessee. But if you're coming from somewhere like Los Angeles or another, really large city, it's actually pretty small. So the population of the entire area is just over 2 million. So really small compared to a lot of the larger cities, but large enough to have, a ton of really cool stuff to do. So zooming in on Nashville, you have the downtown area. So downtown Nashville, of course, is going to be right through here. And then you have these surrounding suburbs. You have Franklin and Columbia, you have Hendersonville, Gallatin, Murfreesboro, all these places surrounding. So we're going to dive into that. But first of all, talking about the downtown area. So I know a lot of people watching this are probably not wanting to live right downtown, although some of you are going to love downtown Nashville. But even if you don't want to live right downtown, it is one of the coolest downtowns to just have nearby and to be able to go and do stuff. So you have Broadway, which is that iconic area of downtown Nashville where you have all of the country music stars. They have, their venues all along this area, and you can go down there any day of the week. I mean, middle of the day, there's going to be live music at about 50 different venues along this road. So it is one of the coolest places to be able to go hang out if you enjoy live music, especially if you enjoy country music. I mean, you're literally going to be able to go down there on any weekday, like any time of the day, and you're going to be able to find live music. So that's a super cool area. But then there's also cool stuff. But then there's also, great shopping and great restaurants. There's cool developments like 5th and Broadway, which is going to have a lot of great shopping, a lot of great restaurants, and it's right next to Broadway itself, as the name would imply. So you have the shopping, the restaurants, and a ton more of that in other parts of downtown. And then you're going to have things like Bridgestone Arena with the Nashville Predators, the hockey team, and you're going to have the Titans Stadium right across the river, and they're actually building a new Titans Stadium currently right now. And I know the Titans are not very good, but they are going to have a cool stadium. So the Titans Stadium, brand new Titans Stadium coming across the river. And of course, Bridgestone Arena is also going to have all kinds of other events as well. So a ton of stuff that goes on in downtown Nashville. Even if you don't want to live downtown, it can be a cool thing to have nearby just for the different entertainment options that are going on there, along with the dining and the shopping. But if you do want to live downtown, it is also actually a great downtown area to be able to live compared to most of the other cities in Tennessee. So when you look at a lot of the other cities, they don't have things like grocery stores or really the day-to-day amenities that you want. But when you live in downtown Nashville, you've got grocery stores, you've got a Whole Foods right there. So one of the really cool new areas of downtown with, the new high-rises, the new high-rise apartment buildings and condominiums and everything. You have a Whole Foods actually right there in that area. You're also going to have, things like gyms and all the stuff you need on a daily basis. So when you live in some of the other downtowns in Tennessee, it's like you're going to have to go out to the suburbs to get kind of the stuff you need on a daily basis. But you can actually live right there in Nashville, have access to the Whole Foods. You're going to have access to really anything you need on a daily basis. But I know for a lot of you, you are more interested in living out in the suburbs. So we're going to talk about all the suburbs, and we're going to start out with Davidson County, which is the county that downtown Nashville is actually in, and then we're going to talk about the surrounding counties that have some of the other suburbs. But when you zoom in on Davidson County, this is going to be the area where you have, of course, downtown, and then the suburbs are the more historic suburbs that were developed for the most part, 100 plus years ago. And then as we move out into the surrounding counties, you're going to see some of these small town areas plus some of the modern suburbs that are, newer areas of development. But looking over here, right around downtown Nashville and the rest of Davidson County, if you look up here on this side, this is a lot of rural area, not a lot of development up there, down here in this area as well. Over on this side, you have the International Airport, and there's also going to be quite a bit of industrial development over there as well, kind of down in this area. And then up here, this is called East Nashville, although it's kind of north and east. And then down here, kind of on the south side, these areas are where you're going to have a lot of those historic suburbs. So up here in East Nashville, which again is kind of towards the north and the east, you're going to have that area with the older homes, all that historic charm. You're going to have the more, local restaurants and coffee shops and breweries, a lot less chain locations than you're going to find in some of the newer suburbs. So if you're looking for that area that kind of has the historic homes, the character, all of the stuff that goes along with that, and then the more local, restaurants and coffee shops and breweries, that is a lot of what you're going to find over there on the east side, a really cool area. And then over here to the south, I'm going to zoom in, and there's a few different neighborhoods that we will talk about. First of all, if you look up here right out of downtown, this area right here is called Midtown. So this right here is downtown, and then right here you have Midtown. In Midtown, you're going to have a couple hospitals, a lot of other businesses. You're going to have, apartment buildings, things like that. And then you see right down through here is an area called Music Row, but you're also going to have Vanderbilt University right here, along with Vanderbilt Medical Center. Right down through here, you're going to have Belmont University. So a lot of universities and hospitals and things like that on the immediate south side. And then as you move further south from that, you get to this area called 12 South. Now 12 South has a really cool historic commercial development where you're going to have, restaurants, shopping, you're going to have cool coffee shops, breweries, things like that. So it's a really cool area, kind of a cool hangout spot. And that is going to be one of those other areas that has more local stuff. And it's also going to have kind of that historic character as you saw on the east side as well. So 12 South has that commercial development kind of right in the middle. And then the surrounding neighborhoods are those cool historic homes. So you're going to have, the character and the charm. You're going to have the, local shops and the local restaurants, local coffee shops, all that sort of stuff. And then as you move further south from that, you get to an area called Green Hills, and you're going to have Green Hills Mall right here. And then kind of the area surrounding it, you're going to have, housing. You're going to have the historic neighborhoods and housing, similar to what you found in 12 South, just a little bit further out from town. So again, you're going to have those historic homes. A lot of these homes are actually getting replaced with newer, larger homes. It's a very nice area. The Green Hills shopping area is a really high-end shopping area. It is also close to downtown Nashville. And so you get a lot of really nice historic homes, a lot of really nice historic neighborhoods that are well kept up, absolutely beautifully maintained. And then you're also going to get some of the smaller, older homes that are being now replaced by new homes. So it's one of those areas that is just really well kept up. So you do get that historic charm, but you also get some newer homes in there as well. And then right next to that, you have a community, a neighborhood called Belmead. Belmead sits right in here. And Belmead is going to be one of the most affluent neighborhoods in the entire state. It's actually the most affluent neighborhood probably in the entire state. And it's absolutely beautiful. So you have a lot of historic homes. A lot of these homes were built back in the early 1900s. A lot of homes that are newer as well. But you have just beautiful tree-lined streets. Most of the homes sit on larger lots. You have Belmead Boulevard that runs, through the middle of the neighborhood. And then the homes that sit along Belmead Boulevard are on large estate lots. And then the neighborhoods that sit back off, the lots oftentimes are still, an acre, 2 acres, but not quite as big as when they're on the boulevard. And these homes are absolutely beautiful, well-maintained, historic homes. And then you have several roads that sit kind of off the main road where you're going to have homes on 10, 20 acre lots. these huge estate lots with the beautiful homes on them. And so if you're looking for that kind of area that has, absolutely top of the line as far as the character and the upkeep of the historic area, the tree-lined streets, and then also really convenient to the shopping over in Green Hills, actually really convenient to downtown Nashville as well. Belmead is an incredible area. You have golf courses surrounding it, and then you also have a large nature preserve just on the south end of it with miles and miles of hiking trails. So you can live in one of the most beautiful neighborhoods really in the entire state, have access just 5 minutes away to one of the top shopping areas, close to downtown, have that huge nature preserve right next to it, and then the country club. So that's an absolutely incredible area. And then just to the right here, you actually have another nature preserve called Radnor Lake State Park. So it's a really cool area where you can get these more historic homes and neighborhoods, have a couple of these large nature preserves, a ton of golf courses everywhere, and the shopping nearby. So really beautiful area. So that is a lot of what Davidson County has to offer. It has Nashville downtown itself, and then it has those more historic suburbs as you move out. And then the next county that we'll talk about is Williamson County. And Williamson County is really one of the counties that a lot of people are looking to move to. And the county seat of Williamson County is Franklin. So Franklin is, like I said before, one of the iconic small towns in Tennessee. If you're not from Tennessee, you have likely heard of Franklin just because it is kind of that iconic small town feel. But before we get into Williamson County and Franklin more, there are really 5 different types of communities that I like to divide things into, and this will kind of help you understand the different areas that we're talking about. So the first type is urban, then you have suburban, then you have small town, you have rural, and then you have planned community. So urban, that's easy, that's just the downtown area. Suburban is the areas surrounding downtown, really just defined by neighborhoods and housing development. So those could be the historic suburbs or the more modern suburbs. Then the third is you have small towns. And small towns is a unique one, and it's what a lot of people are looking for. So I'm going to come back to that in just a second. Then you have the rural areas. So these are the areas that have, open land, farmland, the wooded areas. You're going to find homes on, large pieces of property. And then the last one is a planned community. And the planned communities are the ones that have all the amenities built in. You're going to have things like golf courses, clubhouse, fitness center, restaurant, pickleball courts, all that sort of stuff built right into the community. So those are the 5 types of communities, and I want to come back and touch on the small towns for a minute. So the small towns I define as those towns that have a historic downtown area, because this is what a lot of people are looking for. They want to have that town that has kind of that small town vibe with that charming historic downtown area. And you can have small towns that are either out away from any other metro. So if we look on the map here, you could zoom out here and look at somewhere over here like Cookeville, or you can go down here, look at Sparta. These are small towns, they have their own historic downtown area. They have their own identity, their own, kind of thing going on, but they're not part of a larger metro. Or you can have small towns that are also part of a larger metro, and you can define these as small towns and also suburbs. So if you look over here, you can see towns like Franklin down here, towns like Gallatin or Lebanon, and these are towns that have their own historic downtown area, but they're also part of the Nashville metro. So these are towns that historically they were kind of just their own town, and as the Nashville area has grown, they've kind of just grown into these towns, and so it's all part of this larger metro now. But what a lot of people love about these areas is you get that small town vibe with the conveniences of the being part of the larger city metro. So you might hear me refer to these type of places as small town suburbs because they are their own small town, but they're also a suburb of the larger city of Nashville. So we'll dive in and take a look at Williamson County, which is the county just south of Davidson County, and Franklin is the county seat of Williamson County. Now, Franklin is one of the most iconic small towns that you can find. It's been really well kept up. It has a ton of really cool shops, a ton of cool restaurants and coffee shops in the downtown area. So downtown Franklin is an area that a lot of people really love. Franklin also has this cool area right next to downtown called the Factory, which is an old factory building that has been converted into a super cool indoor shopping mall with, again, a lot of cool restaurants, shopping, everything like that. So downtown Franklin and then the factory right next door to it. They're just really cool hangout spots. And then you also have Cool Springs, which is a really large commercial development with some large business headquarters, but then also, a large shopping mall, a lot of other really high-end shopping, and a ton of other stuff as far as restaurants and retail right there in Cool Springs. It's actually probably the largest commercial development in all of Tennessee. And you're gonna have a lot of jobs in Cool Springs with the corporate headquarters. You're gonna have all the shopping you could possibly need, the restaurants and everything like that. So Franklin has, on one hand, it has the really cool historic downtown component. It has the factory, which is really cool, and then it has Cool Springs, that large modern commercial development with a ton of job opportunities. So Franklin is a really unique area with that small town feel and that huge commercial development, and only 30 minutes away from Nashville, so part of that larger suburb. So Franklin really is one of the top choices for a lot of people that want that small town feel and to be part of a larger metro. And by the way, if you're wondering who I am, my name is Forrest McCullough. My real estate team has helped hundreds of people make the move to Tennessee. A lot of people moving from all around the country, places like California, Texas, Florida, New York, Chicago, all around the country. And I've heard from so many people that they want to get away from the crowds or the higher cost of living, or whatever it is. The political environment is a really common one. So they want to get in a more conservative political environment. They want that small town feel. And so Franklin is just one of the examples of a place that's really popular that a lot of people love. And by the way, I have a framework I call the PATH framework. That's 4 questions that helps you identify which area of Tennessee and which suburb or small town of that area would be the best fit for you. So the PATH framework stands for proximity, access to amenities, type of community, and home features. And if you want to fill out that framework and fill out your answers to it and let my team give you recommendations on what we think would be the best fit for you, or some areas that could be the best fit for you, you can simply scan the QR code on the screen here or click the link down in the description, and that'll take you to a web page where you can simply put in your answers to those 4 questions. And based on those answers, we'll give you some recommendations on what we think would be the best fit for you. So if that sounds like it would be helpful for you as we go through this video, simply scan that QR code or click the link in the description, and that'll take you right to that webpage where you can put in those answers. But as I said, Franklin is one of the most popular places because it does have that small town feel with all those modern conveniences. But Williamson County overall is also a place where a lot of people want to be because the county overall has some of the highest rated schools in the entire state. Pretty much every single school in the county. So it's a well-run county where they do a great job of keeping up the standards of everything that's in the county. It also has some really cool places. It has, of course, Franklin. It has Cool Springs. So a lot of the top shopping areas in the state. So there's a lot of things that people love about Williamson County, and Franklin is just one of the things. But a couple of the other areas that I want to point out in Williamson County, you have Brentwood up here. So Brentwood labeled on the map right here, but really the area that Brentwood kind of makes up is more of like this whole area down here. So Brentwood is, Franklin is kind of that small town vibe that's also a suburb. Brentwood is really just more of a complete suburb vibe. So Brentwood is a newer area of development. It's an area that doesn't have its own downtown. That area up at the top called Maryland Farms, this large commercial development where you have, again, a ton of corporate offices, a ton of other businesses. You have some cool shopping areas up there, but it doesn't have its own downtown area. So Brentwood is more of just a suburb feel, but it does have some of the highest end, newer neighborhoods in the area. So if you're looking for a newer development with high-end homes, nice large lots, luxury properties, Brentwood is gonna have a lot of those. It has some neighborhoods like Rosebrook where you're going to find luxury homes in the $2 to $6 million range. It has a really cool planned development called the Governor's Club with the golf course and all the other amenities that go along with the country club there. So if you want to have that country club lifestyle, the planned community lifestyle, then the Governor's Club in Brentwood is a great place to be able to get that. And then there's a ton of other neighborhoods, just, neighborhoods anywhere from 30 to 40 years old to brand new neighborhoods where you're just going to be able to find those larger luxury homes, a lot of times larger lots than what you're going to find in some of the other newer suburbs. So if you're looking for that newer suburb where you're going to have those luxury homes and all those luxury amenities, then Brentwood is a great place to get that. And then down here towards the bottom of Williamson County, there's a couple other planned communities that I want to mention. Right here, you have a community called The Grove and a community called Troubadour. And these are technically, you'll see they have a College Grove address, but these are communities that are in Williamson County, and they are really some incredible planned communities that have the golf course, the clubhouse, fitness centers, the pickleball courts, the pool, everything kind of built in to the community there. The price range for these homes is typically going to be in the $2 to $8 million range. Again, absolutely beautiful communities. There are resale homes available, but there's also plenty of lots left available to build on. So if you want to do a new build, or if you don't want to have to worry about the custom build process, the complete custom process, but you still want a new home, there are options in there as well. So the Grove is one of them. It is, again, going to have all the amenities, beautiful homes. There's still plenty of options for new homes. And then you're going to have Troubadour, that other community, again, options for new homes as well. So both of those absolutely beautiful planned communities with all the amenities. They are in a setting that feels completely remote. So you're going to be surrounded by farmland and wooded areas when you look around. So absolutely beautiful when you get out there and drive around. But at the same time, you're still only about 15 minutes away to get over into Franklin or over into Cool Springs. Now, those planned communities are a little bit further out, but there is one right up here, right next to downtown, that is called West Haven. Again, it's going to have all the amenities right there in it. It's actually going to have even more than most planned communities. It's going to have a large grocery store. It's going to have different restaurants and shopping. And this one is going to be literally about 5 minutes from downtown Franklin. So if you want to be in a planned community and super convenient to Franklin and Cool Springs, then West Haven is going to be a great place to be able to get that. And then if you look at the map over here, there's a lot of these neighborhoods that are kind of in this area that has a lot of farmland surrounding it. And these neighborhoods, you're going to have some neighborhoods in here with homes on 2, 3, 5 acre lots, these large estate lots, absolutely beautiful, surrounded by trees, surrounded by farmland. There's a small river that runs through there. So you can be in somewhere like West Haven, where you're in that planned community, or you can still be, just a little bit further out, within 10 minutes to downtown Franklin, and be in one of these areas that's more rural, where you're going to have these really large pieces of property. So absolutely beautiful area, and it's a really cool area to have all these different aspects, the different types of communities, the planned communities, the downtown, the small town, the rural areas. So Franklin kind of has it all, and so it's a really cool place to be because of that. Now, the next county south from Williamson County is Maury County, and the county seat of Maury County is Columbia. So one insight that is helpful is all the towns that have that small town feel with the historic downtown. The reason that they have that is because those are the towns that are the county seat of their respective county. So just like Franklin was the county seat of Williamson County, you have Columbia that's the county seat of Maury County. So, back in the early 1800s, when these counties were developed, you had the small towns, you had the county seats, and they had the courthouse with the town square put in. And so that's why you have that historic town square that is really kind of that charming, southern downtown that people are looking for. And so that's just a little insight. It's all of the towns that are the county seat for their respective county are the ones that have that small town feel. So going down to Maury County, Columbia is the town in Maury County that's the county seat, and it has that small town feel. So downtown Columbia has that cool town square with the courthouse, the surrounding shops and restaurants and everything. And then you also are going to have home prices. Williamson County is one of the highest priced counties in the state. Davidson County, which is where Nashville is, of course, is one of the highest priced as well. Of course, when you're close to one of the major cities, the prices are going to be higher. Williamson County, because it has Franklin, which is such a popular area, it has Cool Springs, it has some of the top communities in the state. It's also one of the highest priced areas. When you get down to Columbia in Maury County, you can find homes that are priced lower than what you're going to find up in Williamson County. So you're going to have this cool downtown, this cool town square area, and then you're also going to have some newer developments with homes starting in really the 400,000s. So there's going to be a lot of opportunities in the 400,000 and 500,000s for new homes, which finding homes in that price range in Williamson County is not very common at all. So if you are looking in that price range, you're going to have that down here in Columbia. You're also going to have some more established neighborhoods with homes, again, on really large lots. But what you're going to find, again, is the prices are just a little bit lower down here. But if you want a home on a nice large lot, tons of space, again, you're going to be able to find that in Columbia as well. Now, Columbia, you're going to be about 30 minutes to get over into Franklin or Cool Springs, about an hour to get all the way up into downtown Nashville. So a lot of people, think, well, Columbia is way too far out to really even be considered a suburb of Nashville, or it's, too far out for us to want to be in. It's too far from, a bigger city. But what you got to realize is Franklin with Cool Springs, that huge commercial development, that honestly kind of acts like a second metro center for the Nashville area. So if you're in Columbia, you're only 30 minutes away from Franklin and Cool Springs, although you are an hour away from Nashville. So really, to get into a huge area of development, the closest one is going to be Franklin and Cool Springs. So that's what you got to keep in mind. A lot of people that live in Columbia are probably not going to be commuting up to Nashville, but you might be going up to Cool Springs and Franklin, on a regular basis. The next town over is Murfreesboro, and Murfreesboro is about 45 minutes out from downtown. So what we have so far is we have Davidson County up here that we talked about, and then we have Williamson County down here. We had Maury County down here with Columbia, and then Murfreesboro over here, which is Rutherford County. And so you have Davidson County and Williamson County, which are both fairly expensive areas. Then you have Maury County over here, and you have Rutherford County over here with Murfreesboro that are a little bit less expensive. So that's kind of one of the differences when you get out from Davidson and Williamson County, is you're actually going to have a lot more options in the 400,000 and 500,000s. And then when you get into price ranges like 700,000, 800,000, 900,000, you're going to be able to get a lot more home for your money than you would over in Davidson or Williamson County. But Murfreesboro here is really a pretty unique suburb. It's actually the 6th largest city in Tennessee. The population of the entire county is actually about 370,000. So Murfreesboro by itself is pretty much a standalone city, and the amenities that it has really go along with that. So, Columbia, you have pretty much anything you could need, but a lot of people are probably sometimes going to want to go up into Franklin to have access to a little bit more. But in reality, when you live in Murfreesboro, you're going to get prices that are a little bit lower than what you're going to find in Williamson County, but you're also going to have access to literally anything you need on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis. You're going to have major healthcare. You're going to have huge shopping centers. So you have the Avenue, which is a huge new shopping development, and then the surrounding area, you're going to have the hospital, which is a newer hospital. You're going to have all kinds of other commercial areas around that. So the Avenue is one of those newer commercial developments in Murfreesboro, where you're going to have pretty much anything you could possibly need. You're also going to have the historic town square, as Murfreesboro is the county seat of Rutherford County. So you're going to have a bit of that small town feel. You're also going to have the historic neighborhoods surrounding the downtown area, and then you're going to have the modern, commercial developments like the Avenue with all of that shopping, dining options, the healthcare, everything like that. And then the homes, like I said, new construction homes, you're going to be able to find starting usually in the 400,000s. When you get in like the 500,000 and 600,000s, there's actually going to be a ton of options. So when you look over in the Franklin and Williamson County area, there are not very many options for homes in the 500,000 and 600,000s. But over here in Murfreesboro, there are a ton of options for even brand new homes in the 500,000 and 600,000s. And then there's going to be options for new homes in the 800 to 1 million or low millions in Murfreesboro. And these homes, this is kind of like the starting point for homes in Williamson County. In Murfreesboro, you're getting a nice large home, nice luxury home. So you're just going to get a little more home for your money in this county than you would over in Williamson County. So Murfreesboro gives you a little bit of that small town feel, although it is such a big city at this point that it's losing a little bit of the small town feel, but you do still have that historic downtown area. But what comes along with that is you can live in Murfreesboro, never have to worry about leaving. You're never going to need to go over into Nashville or Franklin for anything. You have everything you need right there in your town. But if you want to be closer to Nashville and still have prices that are a little bit lower than some of those other areas we looked at, you can go to a place like Nolensville, or there's a place called Antioch right here. And these are areas, Nolensville is actually half in Williamson County, half in Davidson County. So part of it is a bit more expensive. But either way, in Nolensville, you can find homes starting, a lot of options actually starting in the 400,000s, a lot in the 500,000s. But it's important to keep in mind, if you're looking in Nolensville, you can have a house with a Nolensville address that could either be in Williamson County or it could be in Davidson County. So it's important to know, if you're wanting to be in Williamson County in particular and you're looking in Nolensville, it's important to know, is that particular community in Williamson or Davidson County. But Nolensville, Antioch, you're going to be able to find some homes in price ranges that are more similar to Murfreesboro or Columbia, but you're closer up to downtown Nashville. So if you want those lower prices, but you still want to be closer to downtown Nashville, then those are some areas where you can get it. There's also a huge new commercial development right through here, right outside Nolensville, right in Antioch actually, that is going to have a ton of new shopping. It's actually got a new Tanger outlet right there. So if you're familiar with Tanger outlets, it's all the outlet stores. So it's got a new Tanger outlet. It's got a bunch of other stuff right in that area. So a ton of shopping, a ton of dining options. And that is, like I said, a brand new development where before, if you lived over on that side, you might, if you wanted to get to a bigger shopping area, you might want to go over to Franklin or down to Murfreesboro. But now you can live in Nolensville or in Antioch and have that huge shopping area, that huge commercial development right there in your town. Now, as we move up towards this way, there's one thing that I want to point out that's unique about this side. You have two lakes over here on the east side of Nashville. So you have Percy Priest Lake here, and then you have Old Hickory here. So as we look at these last two counties that are over on this side, that's one of the things, if you want to be closer to a lake, then this is actually going to be the area where you can get closer to one of these lakes. But the next county over is Wilson County, and Lebanon here is the county seat of Wilson County. So that's going to be that town with the historic town square. And then you're also going to have, surrounding areas that are actually fairly rural. You're going to be able to find homes on large lots, a ton of property. But if you do want to have that historic downtown area and be on the east side of Nashville, you're a little bit closer to downtown than you would be down in Columbia, say. You're closer to the lakes. So those are some of the things that you get when you're in Wilson County, and you do get that historic downtown area in Lebanon. And you're also going to have in this area a lot of options for homes, even new homes starting in the 400,000s. So if you're looking in that 400,000 range, there are going to be quite a few opportunities here. And then of course, homes going up in price from there. And then in Wilson County, you also have Mount Juliet. And Mount Juliet, so Lebanon is that historic area, but you also have a lot of newer neighborhoods in there as well. Mount Juliet does not have its own historic area. It's really a more modern suburb feel. Right here in Mount Juliet, you have Providence Marketplace, which is a really large new commercial development with a ton of different shopping and dining options. So a lot of conveniences right there in Mount Juliet. Just doesn't have its own downtown or kind of its own small town identity. But there is a lot of new development in Mount Juliet with homes in the $500,000 to $1 million range. So a lot of the new homes are in that price range. So if you're looking in that price range and you want to be relatively close to Nashville, that's one of the places where you can actually get within 30 minutes of downtown Nashville. Even if you run into some traffic, it's still not going to be too bad. And you're going to be able to find homes, as opposed to on the south side down in Williamson County or Davidson County, where you're within 30 minutes to Nashville. And for the most part, you're going to be in the $1 to $2 million range. Over here in Mount Juliet, you can be in the $500,000 to $1 million range and still be relatively convenient to get over into downtown. And you're also close to those two lakes. So that's kind of a lot of those new developments in Mount Juliet are going to be in that $500,000 to $1 million range. And there's going to be, like I said, a ton of options right now. Now, there are also some areas in Mount Juliet with more established neighborhoods with homes on large lots, 1, 2, 3 acre lots, tons of space, tons of privacy, mature trees. So if you are looking for that more established neighborhood and a lot of space, you can also find that in Mount Juliet. And then of course you have the two lakes there. So Percy Priest down to the south, and it's a beautiful lake and it's great for water sports and fishing. But you can't actually live on it. So there's marinas there where you can keep your boat, or you can put your boat in a boat ramp, but you can't actually live on the lake. If you want to live right on the lake, then Old Hickory, which is just on the north side of Mount Juliet, is a lake that has plenty of lakeside communities. And one of the things a lot of people love about Tennessee is the outdoor activities like the lakes, the boat activities and the fishing and things like that. So if you want to be, just close to the lake and be able to keep your boat at a marina or just put your boat in at a boat ramp, then you can easily do that anywhere in Mount Juliet. But if you want to live right on the lake, there are some communities where you can actually do that. And one of the interesting things about Old Hickory Lake, if you have been looking at buying a lakefront property in Tennessee, you have probably looked at the Knoxville area as well, because there's a few lakes right around Knoxville. And if you look at buying a lakefront property in the Knoxville area, you're typically looking at about 1.3 to 1.5 million, even to get an older home that's, completely outdated if you want to be right on the lake. Over here on Old Hickory Lake, those prices typically start around 900,000 to $1 million. So that price point to get right on the lake is actually a little bit lower when you're outside of Nashville than it is over in the Knoxville area. So that's something that people are often surprised by. They expect Nashville to be more expensive than Knoxville overall, and a lot of the areas are, but some of the areas are not more expensive at all, and Mount Juliet is one of those. So it's interesting, you can actually get a lakefront property for around $1 million. Now, of course, that's gonna be one of the older properties. The home's gonna be probably outdated, needing some update, but you can get in for $1 million or maybe even under $1 million. Now, when you look at some of the newer lakefront properties or properties that have been updated, you're typically looking at 1.5 to 2 million, or a lot of the homes are going to be in the 2 to 4 million range. So if you want to be in a more luxury home or a completely updated home, expect to pay at least 1.5, probably 2 or more, to be in a lakefront property in Mount Juliet. But it's a cool area where you can be right on the lake and still be within 30 minutes to get over into downtown. Now, the next county over is Sumner County. And Gallatin up here is the county seat of Sumner County. So Gallatin, the historic town square, the small town feel. So if you want to be in that small town feel part of Sumner County, then Gallatin is going to be where you're going to be able to find that. Again, prices are going to be similar to what you found over in Lebanon. There will be a lot of options starting in the 400,000 and 500,000s, even for new construction homes. So you have that historic town square, that small town feel. You have, of course, some more established neighborhoods where you're going to be able to get larger lots, the mature trees and everything like that. But then if you want new construction, a lot of options starting in the 400,000 and 500,000s. But then there's also some great lakeside communities in Gallatin. So you have a large planned community called Fairview right outside of Gallatin. So, convenient to get over into downtown if you want to go there. Also fairly convenient to get over into Hendersonville, which we'll talk about in just a second. But you're going to have everything that the planned communities usually have, with the golf course, the clubhouse, all that sort of stuff. And it is also going to be right next to a Publix grocery store and some other shopping. So right when you leave the community, literally just 2 or 3 minutes away from the homes that sit out along the lake, you're going to have the Publix grocery store and other shopping options. So you can have that golf course community that's also lakefront. A lot of the homes in here are going to be in the 1 to 2 million range. A lot of the lakefront homes are going to be in the 2 to 4 million range. But if you do want that planned community lifestyle and a lakefront community, then this one is a really nice one that is also fairly close to downtown Nashville. But then moving over from there, we have Hendersonville. And Hendersonville is another town in Sumner County, but it doesn't have its own downtown area. But what it does have is a ton of conveniences as far as, the modern suburb feel. So you have this large commercial development in the middle of it called Indian Lake, where you're going to have some great shopping, you're going to have restaurants, you're also going to have a ton of healthcare here. Hendersonville has a new Costco, so they do have their own Costco in Hendersonville now. So a ton of the modern conveniences, and then a ton of different options as far as housing goes. So in Hendersonville, you're going to have quite a bit of new development. You'll be able to find townhomes starting in the low 300,000s, and then you're going to have a lot of options for homes in the 5, 6, 700,000s. You're also going to have some options for some higher end homes in the $1 million to $1.5 million range. So a lot of options for new homes in all those price ranges. And then there's also a lot of established neighborhoods where, of course, like everywhere, going to have the larger lots. You're going to have the mature trees. And again, those price ranges are going to be anywhere from 300-400 up to $1 million for a lot of those. And then some of those are going to be even more. But then you're also going to have some of these areas right outside Hendersonville where you're within 10 minutes to Indian Lake, the large commercial development. But as you get a little bit further out, you're going to find a lot of open farmland and some of these neighborhoods and communities where the homes are on 1 acre, 2 acre, maybe even 5 or 10 acre lots. So you're going to be able to be convenient to the commercial developments in Hendersonville, fairly close to downtown Nashville, close to the lake, have this surrounding farmland, have a huge piece of property, have all that privacy. And then in addition to that, you also have the lakeside communities. So prices for the lakefront homes in Hendersonville, similar to Mount Juliet. So you can actually find lakefront homes that start around $900,000 to $1 million. And of course, those are going to be the older homes that are a bit outdated. To get a newer home or a home that is completely updated, you're looking typically at least at $1.5 million. A lot of the lakefront homes are really going to be in the $2 to $4 million range. But there's a lot of lakefront options in Hendersonville. One of the really cool things is you have some of these older, more established neighborhoods that are on the lake that have absolutely massive lakefront lots. So what you find a lot of times is the lakefront communities, the newer ones, the lakefront lots get split up pretty small because it's, valuable pieces of property. But some of these, the lakefront properties are absolutely massive. So you can actually get a lakefront property, have absolutely complete privacy, huge piece of property, complete privacy, be 10 minutes to get to Indian Lake, to get to Costco and a ton of other shopping, be within 30 minutes to get to downtown Nashville. And so it's a really unique area where you're going to have all those things kind of right there in your backyard, so to speak. And honestly, as far as a suburb that is fairly close to downtown Nashville, has really all the amenities that you could possibly need, the prices for homes really compare very favorably when you compare them to some of the other suburbs that are around Nashville. So we've covered a lot in this video, from the downtown area, the different suburbs, the modern suburbs, the small towns, the more rural areas, the planned communities, and hopefully this has been helpful to at least help you understand what your options are. But if you want my team to actually give you some personalized recommendations on what areas could be the best fit for you, you can scan that QR code that's on the screen or click the link in the description, and that will take you to that web page where you can simply fill out our path framework. It's just those 4 questions. Just give us some details about what you want for those 4 categories, and we will actually get back to you with a personalized list of recommendations for areas around Nashville, or if you're interested in other areas of the state, we can give you recommendations on that. We cover the Nashville area, the Knoxville area, and the Chattanooga area, and the areas in between. So we can give recommendations on all those areas. If that sounds like it would be helpful for you, simply scan that QR code or click the link in the description. And again, that'll just take you to that form where you can simply put in your answers, and we will get back to you with personalized recommendations, and we'll see you on the other side.